Dr. Sarah Chen stared at her computer screen, her eyes wide with disbelief. The data couldn't be right. She ran the numbers again, her fingers flying over the keyboard. But the result was the same. With a shaky hand, she reached for her phone. "Director Williams, we have a situation. You need to see this now." An hour later, the top scientists of Earth's United Space Command were crowded into a small windowless room. The air was thick with tension as Dr. Chen explained her findings. These signals, she pointed to a series of jagged lines on the main screen. "They're like nothing we've ever seen before. They're coming from the edge of our solar system. And they're getting stronger." Director Williams, a tall man with graying hair, leaned forward. "What are you saying, Dr. Chen?" She took a deep breath. "I believe we're detecting a massive fleet of ships. Advanced ships. And they're heading straight for Earth." The room erupted in chaos. Questions flew from all directions. How many ships? How fast were they moving? Were they hostile? "Quiet." Williams' voice cut through the noise. "Dr. Chen, continue. Based on their speed and trajectory, they'll reach Earth in approximately 3 months. As for their intentions," she paused, her voice dropping. "The energy signatures suggest weapons, powerful ones." The silence that followed was deafening. Dr. Raj Patel, an astrophysicist, spoke up. "But who are they? Why haven't we detected them before?" Chen shook her head. "I don't know. But there's more." She pulled up a new set of data. "We've intercepted communications between the ships. It's mostly encrypted, but we've managed to translate 2 words that keep appearing. Galactic Council." William's face paled. "Are you saying?" "Yes," Chen nodded. "I think we're dealing with an advanced alien civilization, and it looks like they've decided Earth is their next target." The next few days were a blur of activity. World leaders were secretly informed. Military forces were put on high alert. Scientists worked around the clock, trying to decipher more of the alien communications. 5 days after the initial discovery, a breakthrough came. Dr. Chen burst into William's office, waving a printout. "We've translated more of their messages," she gasped. "It's worse than we thought. The Galactic Council. They've deemed humanity a threat. They're coming to eliminate us." Williams sank into his chair. "My God, how do we fight something like this?" Chen's eyes were filled with a mix of fear and determination. "I don't know, but we have to try." As news of the impending invasion spread through top government circles, panic set in. Emergency meetings were called. Defense strategies were proposed and discarded just as quickly. How could they possibly defend against a force capable of interstellar travel? In a secure bunker deep beneath Washington, D.C., the President of the United States addressed a room full of grim-faced world leaders via holographic projection. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice steady despite the weight of the situation, "we face a threat unlike any in human history. In 3 months, an alien force will reach Earth with the intention of wiping us out. We must stand united. All our differences, all our conflicts, they mean nothing now. Either we survive together, or we fall together." Murmurs of agreement filled the room. Old enemies nodded at each other, a silent pact forming in the face of extinction. "Our best minds are working on defense strategies," the President continued. "But we need to face the reality. Our technology may not be enough. We need to think outside the box. No idea is too crazy. Our very existence depends on it." As the meeting adjourned, a young aide approached Director Williams. "Sir, there's a call for you. It's Dr. Yuki Tanaka from the Antarctic Research Station. She says it's urgent." Williams frowned. What could be more urgent than an alien invasion? He took the call, listening intently. His eyes widened. "Are you sure?" he asked. "No, don't do anything. I'm on my way." He turned to the President, his heart racing. "Madam President, I think we may have found something. Something that could change everything." As he hurried out of the room, Williams couldn't shake the feeling that humanity's fate, now rested on whatever Dr. Tanaka had discovered buried in the ice of Antarctica. The clock was ticking. The Galactic Council was coming, and Earth's last hope might lie in the frozen wasteland at the bottom of the world. Dr. Yuki Tanaka's breath froze in the air as she stood at the entrance of the ice cave. Her team of archaeologists huddled behind her, their excitement palpable despite the biting cold of Antarctica. "Are you sure about this, Dr. Tanaka?" her assistant, Mike, asked nervously. Yuki nodded, her eyes glimmering with determination. "The scans don't lie, Mike. There's something big down there." They had been excavating this site for weeks, following strange energy readings that their equipment could barely understand. Now, they stood on the brink of what could be the greatest discovery in human history. As they descended into the cave, their headlamps cast eerie shadows on the ice walls. The further they went, the more the air seemed to hum with an otherworldly energy. Suddenly, Yuki's foot hit something solid. She knelt down, brushing away layers of frost. Her eyes widened. It's a door," she whispered. The team gathered around, staring in awe at the massive metal structure embedded in the ice. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing faintly in the dim light. "What language is that?" Mike asked, his voice hushed. Yuki shook her head. "Nothing I've ever seen before. This isn't human." With trembling hands, she reached out to touch the symbols. As her fingers made contact, the door began to hum. The glow intensified, and with a great groan, it started to open. Cold air rushed out, carrying with it the scent of something ancient and alien. The team stepped back, hearts pounding. As the door fully opened, they found themselves staring into a vast chamber. And inside, "Oh my God," Yuki breathed. Rows upon rows of pods lined the walls, each containing a humanoid figure. They were tall, with silvery skin and elongated limbs, and they were sleeping. "Are they alive?" Mike asked. Yuki checked her instruments. "Yes, they're in some kind of stasis. These pods are keeping them alive." As the team cautiously entered the chamber, they noticed a central console. Yuki approached it, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. "This technology," she murmured, "it's incredible, far beyond anything we have." Suddenly, a holographic image flickered to life above the console. It showed a vast starship, then a devastating battle. The aliens in the pods fighting against an overwhelming force. The Galactic Council, Yuki realized with a start. They fought the Galactic Council and lost. The implications hit her like a ton of bricks. These beings had technology advanced enough to challenge the force currently heading to destroy Earth, and they were here, sleeping under the ice. With shaking hands, Yuki reached for her satellite phone. "Get me Director Williams. Now." Hours later, the chamber was bustling with activity. Scientists, military personnel, and government officials swarmed the site. In the center of it all stood Director Williams, his face a mask of concern as he listened to Yuki's report. "So you're telling me," he said slowly, "that we found an alien race with technology that could potentially save us, sleeping under the ice." Yuki nodded. "Yes, sir, but there's more." She pointed to the holographic display. "From what we've deciphered, these beings call themselves the Anlathians. They were a powerful race that stood against the Galactic Council's expansion, but they were defeated and forced into hiding." Williams frowned. "And now we're considering waking them up to fight our battles." "Do we have a choice?" Yuki asked. "The Galactic Council will be here in less than 3 months. We need allies." As if in response to her words, one of the pods began to pulse with light. Alarms blared as scientists rushed to contain the situation. "What's happening?" Williams demanded. Yuki's eyes were wide as she checked the readings. I think one of them is waking up." The pod hissed open, releasing a cloud of frigid mist. As it cleared, a tall, silver-skinned figure sat up, its large, opalescent eyes blinking in confusion. The Anlathian looked around, taking in the humans surrounding it. Then, in a voice that seemed to echo in their minds rather than their ears, it spoke a single word. Why? Yuki stepped forward, her heart pounding. This was the moment that would define humanity's future. Their plea for help, their explanation of the dire situation they faced. It all came down to this. As she opened her mouth to speak, she prayed that this ancient being would understand, would be willing to help. Because if not, Earth's last hope might have just slipped away. The world's leaders sat in stunned silence as they watched the holographic feed from Antarctica. The silver-skinned Anlathian, now fully awake, stood before them, its otherworldly presence filling the room even through the projection. President Helena Rodriguez of the United States cleared her throat. Can it understand us? Dr. Yuki Tanaka nodded. Yes, Madam President. The Anlathian seems to have some kind of telepathic ability. It's picking up our thoughts and language rapidly. The Anlathian's large, opalescent eyes blinked slowly. Its voice, when it spoke, seemed to resonate directly in their minds. You have awakened us. Why? Director Williams stepped forward. We need your help. Our world is under threat from the Galactic Council. They're coming to destroy us. A ripple of what could only be described as fear passed across the Anlathian's features. The Council still exists. After all this time. Yes, Williams confirmed. And they'll be here in less than 3 months. The alien turned to the pods behind it, where its brethren still slept. We hid from the Council. We slept, hoping they would forget us. And now you want us to fight. President Rodriguez leaned forward. We understand your hesitation. But please, we have no other choice. Our technology is no match for theirs. Without your help, our entire species will be wiped out. The Anlathian was silent for a long moment. Then it spoke again. Awakening my people is not a simple task. The process is dangerous. Many may not survive. A murmur of concern rippled through the assembled leaders. General Zhang of China spoke up. How many of your people are there? 10,000, the Anlathian replied. Once, we were billions. Now, we are all that remain. The weight of the decision hung heavy in the air. They were asking this ancient race to risk what little remained of their civilization for a planet of strangers. Dr. Tanaka stepped forward. We don't make this request lightly. But if the Galactic Council isn't stopped here, they'll keep expanding. Eventually, they'll find you again. This might be our only chance to stand against them. The Anlathian's gaze swept across the holographic faces of Earth's leaders. You speak truth. But know this. If we agree to help you, there will be a price. We will need a new home, a place for our people to rebuild. President Rodriguez nodded solemnly. If we survive this, we'll make sure you have a place on Earth. We'll face whatever comes next together. After what felt like an eternity, the Anlathian nodded. Very well. We will help you. But first, we must awaken our people. The next few days were a flurry of activity. Military transports flew in equipment and personnel to the Antarctic base. Scientists worked around the clock, trying to understand and assist with the alien revival process. Dr. Tanaka stood beside the Anlathian, now known as Zarthal, as they prepared to awaken the first group of sleepers. Are you sure about this? She asked, concern evident in her voice. Zarthal's mental voice was tinged with sadness. No, but as you said, what choice do we have? They activated the revival sequence. Pods hissed open one by one, releasing their occupants into a world far different from the one they left behind. Not all of them survived the process. Each loss was felt keenly by Zarthal and the other awakened Anlathians, but those who did survive quickly grasped the gravity of the situation. As the revival process continued, Earth's military leaders began working with the Anlathians, integrating their advanced technology into humanity's defenses. It was a race against time, with the Galactic Council's fleet drawing ever closer. Director Williams watched the preparations with a mixture of hope and trepidation. They were betting everything on these ancient aliens. If it worked, They might just save humanity. If it failed, he pushed the thought aside. Failure wasn't an option. As he looked out over the bustling base, where humans and Anlithians worked side by side, he allowed himself a small smile. For the first time since they detected the approaching fleet, he felt a glimmer of hope. But even as that hope grew, so did a nagging worry. The Anlithians were powerful allies, yes, but they were also an unknown factor. What would happen if they succeeded in defeating the Galactic Council? Would their new allies be content with a small place on Earth, or would they want more? As if sensing his thoughts, Zarthel approached him. "Your mind is troubled, Director." Williams nodded. "We're grateful for your help, but I can't help wondering, what happens after? If we win?" Zarthel's mental voice was solemn. "First, we must survive. Then we will face tomorrow's challenges together." As they stood there, watching the preparations unfold, both human and alien knew that the real test was yet to come. The Galactic Council was still out there, drawing closer by the day. And soon, very soon, the fate of both their races would be decided in the cold vacuum of space. The Antarctic base hummed with activity as more and more Anlathians emerged from their ancient slumber. Dr. Yuki Tanaka watched in awe as another pod hissed open, revealing a tall, silver-skinned figure. This time, it was a female Anlathian. Her large, opalescent eyes blinked rapidly, adjusting to the light. As she stepped out of the pod, her legs buckled. Yuki rushed forward to help her. "Easy," Yuki said softly. "You've been asleep for a very long time." The Anlathian's mind voice was weak but clear. Where am I? This is not our world." Zarthal, the first awakened Anlathian, approached. "We are guests of the humans, Luran. Much has changed. Our world is gone." Luran's eyes widened in shock. "Gone? How long have we slept?" "Thousands of years," Zarthal replied gently. "The galaxy has moved on without us. But now, we are needed once more." As Zarthal explained the situation to Luran, Yuki couldn't help but marvel at the aliens' resilience. To wake up millennia after your civilization fell, only to be immediately thrust into another war, it was almost unimaginable. Across the base, similar scenes played out as more Anlathians awoke. Some reacted with confusion, others with fear. A few even lashed out, their powerful psychic abilities causing minor earthquakes before they could be calmed. Director Williams watched it all from the command center, his brow furrowed with worry. "How many have we awakened so far?" he asked a nearby aide. "Just over 3,000, sir," the aide replied. "But we're losing about 1 in 5 during the revival process." Williams closed his eyes, feeling the weight of each loss. These beings were risking everything to help humanity. He only hoped it would be enough. Outside, a group of newly awakened Anlathians gathered around a holographic display of Earth's solar system. General Zhang was explaining the current situation. "The Galactic Council's fleet is here." He pointed to a spot just beyond Saturn. "At their current speed, they'll reach Earth in 6 weeks. An Anlathian named Vextor stepped forward. His mind voice was strong, tinged with a soldier's confidence. "Their ships are impressive, but not invincible. We've fought them before. We can do it again." "But last time, you lost," Yuki pointed out gently as she joined the group. Vextor turned to her, his silver face set in grim determination. "True, but this time, we have you. Your world, your people to defend. Sometimes that makes all the difference." As the days passed, the revival process continued. The Anlathians who survived quickly integrated themselves into Earth's defense preparations. Their advanced technology meshed with human innovations in ways no one had thought possible. Quantum computers interfaced with Anlathian psychic amplifiers. Earth's satellites were upgraded with alien sensor arrays. And in orbit, a joint human-Anlathian team began constructing a defense grid unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Cultural misunderstandings led to tensions. Some humans feared the aliens, seeing them as a threat rather than saviors, and some Anlathians struggled to understand the complexities of human society. One evening, Yuki found Liron staring at the sunset, her alien features bathed in golden light. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" Yuki said, standing beside her. Liron nodded. "Your world is so vibrant, so full of life. It reminds me of what we lost." She turned to Yuki, her eyes shimmering with emotion. "We will not let the council take this from you. We cannot." Yuki felt a lump in her throat. "We're grateful for your help, but I can't help wondering. After all this, if we win, what will you do?" Liron was quiet for a moment. "I don't know," she admitted. "Our world is gone. Our culture, our history, so much has been lost. Perhaps we can build something new here with you." As they stood there, watching the sun sink below the horizon, Yuki realized that this war wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about the future. A future where humans and Anlathians might stand together as allies, as friends. But first, they had to survive the coming storm. And as the sky darkened and the first stars appeared, Yuki knew that the real battle was just beginning. The Galactic Council was coming, and with it, the fight for Earth's very existence. In the distance, she could see the glow of the Antarctic base, now a beacon of hope for two species. Humans and Anlathians working together, preparing for a war that would decide the fate of both their races. The awakening was complete. Now, it was time to fight. The once quiet plains of Kansas now buzzed with activity. Massive alien structures rose from the wheat fields, their sleek silver surfaces gleaming in the summer sun. This was humanity's last line of defense, a joint human and Lathian military base preparing for the fight of their lives. Colonel Sarah Chen, formerly Dr. Chen, wiped sweat from her brow as she oversaw the installation of a quantum cannon. Beside her stood Vextor, the Anlathian military strategist. "Will it be enough?" Sarah asked, gesturing to the weapon. Vextor's mind voice was grim but determined. "It must be. We have no other choice." Across the base, humans and Anlathians worked side by side, their differences set aside in the face of impending doom. Engineers puzzled over alien schematics, while Anlathian psychics trained human soldiers in mental defense techniques. In a reinforced bunker deep underground, world leaders gathered for a final briefing. President Rodriguez stood at the head of the table, her face etched with worry. "The Galactic Council's fleet will reach our solar system in 72 hours, she announced. "This is our last chance to prepare. What's our status?" General Zhang stepped forward, activating a holographic display of Earth's defenses. "Our orbital platforms are online. The Anlathian shield technology has been successfully integrated with our satellite network." He zoomed in on the image, showing a web of energy surrounding the planet. "If it works as planned, it should buy us some time against their initial assault." Zarthal, now the unofficial leader of the Anlathians, spoke next. "Our psychic amplifiers are in place at key locations around the globe. They will enhance our abilities, allowing us to disrupt the Council's ships from a distance." President Rodriguez nodded, then turned to Director Williams. "And our secret weapon?" Williams hesitated, glancing at Zarthal before responding. "Project Phoenix is progressing, but it's untested. We can't guarantee it will work." A murmur of unease rippled through the room. Project Phoenix was their ace in the hole, a desperate plan combining human ingenuity with Anlathian technology. If it failed, back on the surface, Sarah and Vextor supervised a group of soldiers practicing with new plasma rifles. The weapons, a fusion of human and Anlathian tech, packed enough punch to take down a small ship. "Your people learn quickly," Vextor observed, his mind voice tinged with admiration. Sarah nodded. "We have to. The fate of our world depends on it." Suddenly, alarms blared across the base. Sarah's radio crackled to life. "All personnel, report to battle stations. This is not a drill. Repeat, This is not a drill. Sarah and Vextor shared a look of shock. They're early, Sarah whispered, as they raced towards the command center. The sky above them shimmered. The planetary shield was activating, a last-ditch effort to protect Earth from the coming storm. Inside the command center, chaos reigned. Screens lit up with incoming data as the Galactic Council's fleet entered the solar system. How many? President Rodriguez demanded. An aide's voice shook as he answered. Thousands, Madam President. More than we ever imagined. On the main screen, they watched as the first wave of alien ships appeared near Jupiter. Their sleek, predatory designs struck fear into even the bravest hearts. Zarthal's mind voice rang out, filled with a mixture of fear and determination. The Council has grown more powerful since our time. But we must not lose hope. We fight not just for survival, but for the right to exist freely in this galaxy. As the enemy fleet approached, Earth's defenses sprang to life. Orbital platforms fired salvos of energy weapons, while on the ground, massive cannons aimed skyward. In the Kansas base, Sarah strapped herself into the pilot's seat of a newly built fighter. The ship, a hybrid of human and Anlathian technology, hummed with power. Vextor's voice sounded in her mind. Remember your training. Trust in your abilities and in our technology. We can do this. Sarah nodded, her jaw set with determination. As she prepared to launch, she caught sight of the Anlathian standing next to her ship. For a moment, their eyes met, an unspoken understanding passing between them. Human and alien, united in their fight for survival. The bay doors opened, revealing the shimmering shield above and the first flashes of battle beyond. Sarah took a deep breath, her hand hovering over the launch control. This was it, the moment everything had been leading up to. The fate of two species, perhaps the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. With a silent prayer, Sarah hit the launch button. Her fighter shot into the sky, joining the swarm of defenders rising to meet the Galactic Council's fleet. The battle for Earth had begun. The sky above Earth erupted into chaos. Thousands of ships, human and Anlathian alike, clashed with the vast Galactic Council fleet. Energy beams crisscrossed the void. Explosions bloomed like deadly flowers in the darkness of space. Colonel Sarah Chen's fighter weaved through the mayhem, her hand steady on the controls. Red Squadron, form up on me, she commanded, her voice calm despite the dire situation. A group of fighters fell into formation behind her, a mix of human pilots and Anlathian psychics. They dove towards a massive council battleship, its hull bristling with weapons. Now, Sarah shouted. As one, the squadron fired their plasma cannons. The combined blast tore through the battleship's shields, leaving a gaping wound in its side. But for every small victory, the defenders suffered losses. Council ships pressed their attack relentlessly, their advanced technology pushing Earth's defenses to the breaking point. On the ground, Vextor stood in the psychic amplifier chamber, his silver skin glistening with effort. Around him, other Anlathians focused their mental energies, projecting a wave of confusion and disorientation towards the enemy fleet. Council ships began to falter, their crews struggling against the psychic assault. But the effort was taking its toll. One by one, Anlathians collapsed from exhaustion, their minds pushed to the limit. In the underground command center, President Rodriguez watched the battle unfold with growing despair. "We're losing," she said quietly. Director Williams nodded grimly. "It's time. We have to activate Project Phoenix." Zarthal, standing nearby, turned to them. "You still haven't told us what this project is. What are you planning?" Williams took a deep breath. "It's a device that combines Anlathian psychic technology with our most advanced AI. If it works, it could turn the tide of the battle." But what?" Zarthal pressed. "But it could also destroy us all," Williams finished. "We don't fully understand how it works. It's a gamble." President Rodriguez closed her eyes for a moment, weighing the fate of the world. Then she nodded. "Do it." High above the Earth, Sarah's squadron was in trouble. Half her pilots were gone, and a council dreadnought loomed before them, its weapons charging. Suddenly, Sarah's comm crackled to life. All units, fall back to Earth immediately. Project Phoenix is being activated. Repeat, fall back now. As the defenders retreated, a strange calm fell over the battlefield. Then, from a hidden base on the moon, a pulse of energy erupted. The pulse washed over friend and foe alike. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, council ships began to act erratically. Some fired on their allies, others simply shut down. In the command center, screens lit up with incoming data. "It's working," an aide shouted. "The council fleet is in disarray." But their celebration was short-lived. Alarms blared as new readings came in. "The pulse is still expanding," another aide reported, panic in his voice. "It's affecting our ships too." Zarthal's mind voice rang out in alarm. "You've created a psychic weapon that can't distinguish friend from foe. It could drive every sentient being in the system insane." Outside, chaos reigned. Human and Anlathian ships began to behave as erratically as the council vessels. On Earth, people clutched their heads in pain as the psychic wave washed over the planet. In her fighter, Sarah struggled to maintain control as her mind was assaulted by the pulse. Through blurry vision, she saw a massive council ship, its weapons still operational, aiming at Earth. With the last of her strength, she aimed her fighter at the ship's bridge. "For Earth," she whispered, and pushed her engines to full power. The resulting explosion took out the council ship, but at a terrible cost. Sarah's sacrifice bought Earth a few more precious moments, but the battle was far from over. In the psychic amplifier chamber, Vexter made a decision. "We can counteract the pulse," he told his fellow Anlathians, "but it will require all of us. We may not survive." Without hesitation, the Anlathians joined hands, forming a circle. They began to glow with psychic energy, pushing back against the chaotic wave threatening to engulf everything. As Vextor poured his mind into the effort, he sent out one last thought to all who could hear. "The future is in your hands now. Make it count." The fate of Earth, of humanity, of the Anlathians, and perhaps the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. The epic confrontation had reached its climax, and the next few moments would determine everything. The silence was deafening. After days of constant battle, the sudden quiet felt almost unnatural. Smoke rose from the ruins of cities around the world, while debris from countless ships drifted in Earth's orbit. In the underground command center, President Rodriguez slowly opened her eyes. The psychic wave had knocked everyone unconscious. As she looked around, she saw others beginning to stir. "Status report," she croaked, her voice hoarse. Director Williams, a gash on his forehead, stumbled to a console. "The Galactic Council fleet. It's gone. Most of their ships were destroyed or fled." A cheer went up from the assembled staff, but Rodriguez held up a hand. "And our losses?" Williams' face fell. "Severe, Madam President. We've lost nearly 70% of our fleet, and we've had no contact with the Anlathian psychic chamber since the pulse." The victory suddenly felt hollow. Rodriguez turned to Zarthal, who was helping another Anlathian to its feet. "Can you sense them?" Zarthal closed his opalescent eyes, concentrating. After a long moment, he shook his head. "There's nothing. They gave everything to save us all." The room fell silent, the weight of sacrifice heavy on everyone's hearts. Days turned into weeks as the world began to rebuild. The threat of the Galactic Council was gone, for now, but the cost had been immense. Cities lay in ruins, millions were displaced, and the night sky was forever changed by the scars of battle. In what was once Kansas, now a sprawling refugee camp, Dr. Yuki Tanaka worked tirelessly to treat both human and Anlathian survivors. As she bandaged an Anlathian child's arm, she couldn't help but marvel at how far they'd come. Former enemies, now united in recovery. "Dr. Tanaka," a voice called. She turned to see a young soldier approaching. They found something in the ruins of the psychic chamber. They're asking for you. Yuki's heart raced as she followed the soldier. Could it be? As they entered the chamber, she gasped. There, in a protective bubble of energy, lay Vextor and a handful of other Anlathians. They were alive, but barely. "Get me a medical team, now," Yuki shouted, rushing to their side. The news spread quickly. The Anlathian heroes, thought lost, had survived. It was a spark of hope in a world desperate for good news. Months passed. The world slowly healed, and with it a new society began to emerge. Humans and Anlathians worked side by side to rebuild, their technologies and cultures blending in ways no one could have imagined. In New York, now a shining example of human-Anlathian cooperation, President Rodriguez stood before the newly formed United Earth Council. Representatives from every nation, as well as Anlathian delegates, filled the chamber. Today, Rodriguez began, her voice carrying across the silent room. "We stand at a crossroads. We have faced our greatest challenge and emerged victorious, but not without cost. The question now is, where do we go from here?" She gestured to the Anlathian representatives. "Our allies, our friends, have lost their home. I propose that Earth become a shared world, a place where both our species can thrive together." The chamber erupted in discussion. It was a radical proposal, but after everything they'd been through, the old boundaries seemed meaningless. As the debate continued, Yuki and a fully recovered Vextor watched from a balcony overlooking the city. "Do you think it will work?" Yuki asked. "Humans and Anlathians, building a future together." Vextor's mind voice was thoughtful. "It will not be easy, but we have already achieved the impossible. Why stop now?" They looked out at the city, where human skyscrapers stood alongside graceful Anlathian structures. It was a new world, full of challenges, but also full of hope. But even as they planned for the future, a nagging worry remained. The Galactic Council had been defeated, but not destroyed. Somewhere out there, they were licking their wounds, perhaps planning their revenge. Vextor, sensing Yuki's concern, placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Whatever comes," he said, "we will face it together, human and Anlathian, united." As the sun set on this new Earth, casting a golden glow over the rebuilt city, Yuki nodded. They had survived the impossible once. If the Council ever returned, they would be ready. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, it was also bright with possibility. A new chapter in the history of both species was just beginning.